I am so pleased to have my guest today. We have Achille Ettorre today. And I want to give a little bit of context of why I invited you, because I haven't even told you why I invited you, Achille, to be part of Voices of Inclusion. But here's the thing, you were my first coaching client, whether you know it or not. I might have
Wow.
pretended to have had all kinds of clients before you, but the truth is you were my first coaching client. I've also known you the longest of all of my coaching clients. But more importantly than that, I picked you because you've always been honest with me. I think you've always been honest with yourself. And I think you've always been honest with the world. And the kind of conversation we want to have today is real honesty. So that's the real reason I invited you here. So thank you for being here. Let's start. Just give me the down and dirty on who you are, what you're doing these days, what you've been up to. What do you want to tell us? Just a few minutes.
Well, listen, Priya, thank you so much. No, I did not know that about you. I did not know that I was your first. Definitely thankful for, I'll say, the friendship and all these years that we stayed in contact. Um, uh, Listen, a little bit about myself. I'm a dad. I'm an entrepreneur. I dabble in and out of the corporate world at this stage of my life. Um, I'm literally I'll say a curious individual that likes solving complex problems using data and a lot of intuition to get me and some of my clients to where we need to be.
Nice. Okay. I love how you started with I'm a dad. I know that identity is really important to you. So is being a son and a brother and a husband. I know those identities and a friend, really important to you. So you've just sparked my interest in knowing the real story of your truth, your wisdom. Are you ready to go beneath the surface with me in this conversation?
Listen, I don't necessarily go beneath the surface with a lot of people, but I trust you, and it's always a good opportunity for me to learn a little bit about myself and to share with others in terms of things that I'm going through, and maybe it's relatable, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So, one of the things you know about my leadership philosophy is that I believe everybody is a leader, whether you like it or not. You are influencing the people around you. And just by existing in the world, you're creating ripples. So, in this way, we're all leaders. What kind of leader are you?
It normally depends on the situation, but Priya, a common theme for me is I generally like to assess the situation and see what it is that we can leverage from other people and understanding what their situation is. And a common thread around that is using data to make whatever decision or adjust any type of processes in doing whatever it is that we're doing. So I think I'm empathetic. I think I'm motivational, uh, but I'm also very direct, and I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations when they need to be had. And those conversations can be had with anyone, including myself.
I think back to some of the times that you and I were at on resident staff together back at Saugeen Maitland Hall at Western University. And assess the situation as very characteristically you, Achille, and the kind of the no BS direct, I'm going to tell it like it is, and I'm going to assess the situation, look at what's going on, and remove the emotion from it and head on solve the problem. So you've always been like that?
I'm going to say that's true bare bones Achille. Achille has been like that from a young age. Um, Now I've evolved over time with different influences over my life and different life experiences. I will tell you that, although I'm very direct, sometimes I do take different positions in that leadership fold, and I don't necessarily need to lead the launch and go right at something. I can take things and tackle things from different avenues. I can deliver my message in different ways. But that's kind of an evolution, and that's a more mature Achille that kind of understands that there's different ways to approach all situations.
Now, one of the words I heard you throw into your leadership definition is empathetic. And I think that there are so many different ways that people express empathy. For some of us, it's very warm and compassionate. And for others, it looks differently. What does empathy look like in you? How would I know that you're being empathetic?
Um, I would tell you that for me, it's knowing that you can trust me and that I got you. Whether we have difficult conversations or whether we have direct conversations or we're solving or having working on anything, the people side of things for me come first. And so I'm empathetic because, a lot of the times, in my line of work or what it is that we're doing, we're not necessarily saving lives, and thankfully so, because I can only imagine the casualties. We're working at getting something done, and we all go back to our families and we all go back to doing what it is that we do, uh, you know, um, day to day. And so when people are dealing with situations and it's an unfair advantage at the home front, given whatever their personal lives or whatever they're dealing with, you kind of you approach those situations differently. And some people don't call that fair, and fair sometimes is not similar to, or it's not the same for every person. But I think that I'm empathetic to people's situations when dealing with certain processes or dealing with any type of leadership situation.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So I'm hearing some themes around context matters. You've evolved and you've grown, you've matured, you've learned who you are, and you know how to express yourself in different situations. So that brings me to my next question, and I want you to try to elaborate on this or just sort of talk it out. How do you want to be known?
Um, I would say for me, it's twofold. I definitely want to be known as someone that's made an impact and someone that's made a difference, not only in a business setting, but in a life setting. And so from a life setting, I mean, I look at my children and I look at all the different things that I choose to do and be involved with, and I want them to look back and say, hey, that was my dad. And from a business perspective and who I work with, whether it's a corporate setting or my own family business, I want to be able to be known as someone that's really helped strive them and other people be in a better position than they were, say, a year ago. And a lot of that is literally from living the day to day and working with anyone really directly and being involved, being at the table, listening, actively listening, and knowing that whatever it is that you're doing, it's nothing's always a cookie cutter situation, but there's always a solution to anything that you're dealing with,
Mm.
or maybe a better approach on the things that you're dealing with.
Yeah, if you're willing and if you're curious and you're open to new approaches, right? It takes, being of service is one thing and having making a difference in the world is one thing, but it only happens, I think, if you're doing the things you just said, being curious, open, listening, inviting others to the table. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, tell me, Achille, what do people get wrong about you when they first meet you?
That's an interesting question. In my corporate life, I've left Loblaw now. I think it's almost 8 years, 8 or 9 years ago, and I've obviously, in some realms, gained a very corporate uh, 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 reputation of not that empathetic side or that personal side that I've shared with you. And so I think, I think that's wrong. Um, where they're right is I am a data-driven individual, and I take the emotions out of it, and I'm definitely data-driven. I, I I would like to, I would like to think that, when you have the conversations years on afterwards, that they see that there's a human side to that, and that, taking the emotions or taking all the fluff out of certain situations and just honing in on what's important gets you to a spot where you can actually deliver high impact results. But you get to also have fun with your team afterwards because the work's being done and you're elevating not only yourself but the team, and you can take on more new tasks and do things that are fun. Um, I think, if I go in a little deeper to that, I think, when I left my corporate role, I think a lot of people thought I'd be back into a corporate role, but the truth is, over time, I've just created a life for myself that I've been able to enjoy, the theme around that is just spending more time with my family. I enjoy being home for dinner every day. I enjoy cooking, by the way. But I've had to create that, augment it with, what I've done in my family business as I've grown up. I've always been in the rental industry. I've taken a leadership in my company that I run with my brother. I've also been a large part of the association. I've been actually I've been published by the ARA, which is the American Rental Institute, and we're going to be published on the cover of the Canadian Rental magazine this upcoming month. Which, listen, those are proud moments for us. So those are things that people don't see,
Mm.
but it's definitely a passion of mine. Um, you know, yeah, I think. Listen, I think yeah, I think that's a lot. I think that's it. Like that, those are things that people don't.
I'm
And
smiling because I'm with you. It took me a while to see your humanity. At first,
that's scary.
it's scary. I mean, we were young.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we were students
yeah.
when we first met, and I looked up to you and I was a little intimidated. I'm like, that guy knows his stuff. Like he's on top of it. It was my first year on res staff. It was, you'd been there before. You were a veteran. Took me a while to see that. But then that's one thing I got wrong about you or made an impression that was later, luckily I allowed it to evolve to where it is now, and I remember when we were coaching asking you hard questions about your emotions and you often answered with, I don't know. I don't know. Do you remember that?
I do. I actually do.
Yeah.
I actually do.
And now you know yourself as someone who is data driven. You can manage the emotions, you can bring them in, sometimes use them as data, other times, don't let them interfere or distract you from solving the problem.
No, you're absolutely right. But it was in those moments or those inflection points in my life that I think it's important for everyone to take the time to understand what it is that they want within their life. And I could tell you pretty openly that, I was on a path and it's a corporate path that everyone wants to go and do. Everyone wants to become an executive or everyone wants to be whatever it is that they want to be. And I think that's all great, but sometimes I'm not sure why they're doing it. And I would tell you that I enjoyed and loved my corporate life. I'm still very close friends with a lot of them that work within my team. Some of them are there, some of them are retired. But sitting back and doing the work, I think the path I took, which was not the one that was, consistent with what everyone else thought was the path for Achille, but I'm very happy that I chose that path.
Mm.
The path for Achille allows him to do the things that he wants are important in life, because he has the flexibility and time now. Where in the past I didn't necessarily have that. I was doing other things that kept me busy to do what it is that needed to be done at that time in my life.
All right. So since you said you're willing to go under the surface with me, I'm going to probe on that a little bit.
Mhm.
So is that because you knew what your why was, what your purpose was, or can you look back at those 8 years and say, I'm happy because you're a grateful person, period? How much of it is about the plan and how much of it is about who you are?
I think it's a combination of both, but the inflection point that goes deep is when my father was diagnosed with brain cancer and passed, it really it really hit like it would hit anyone hard in terms of what it is that you're doing and what path that you want in life. And you really think about those things. And it goes with that Harvard study. Um, what does it mean to be happiness, or what does it mean to be happy? And it's a I think it's an 80-year-old study now. You think about those things, and it's like no one has ever sat on their deathbed, or no one's ever sat on their beds, finding out all the different meetings they've been to, or all the different roles they've had, or all the bonuses, or any of the materialistic stuff that I'm not suggesting is not important. I'm just telling you that, I've kind of shifted the relevance or the weight on that importance. I'm fortunate. Listen, we do very well, but I'm even more fortunate that I'm able to, given that experience that my father's gone through, reflect at an earlier age in my life to assess what's important. And
Mm.
I think I always knew that family was important, Priya, and I think that really instills in anything that I do and the people that know me. But I was able to kind of calibrate a plan to, live a life or create a life that I'm allowed to, manifest what it is that I want.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, thinking back on your life, what commitments have you made that you now no longer believe in?
Um, I think that path to being at the table, the executive table,
Mm,
and gaining that role, um, was so important and so superficial that it's not really as important. It's not important to me at all, as it once used to be. I definitely respect and understand why people go through that. Um, I've been able to sit at those tables and have influence based on the different work that I've been doing and kind of building my own, skill set and views on how to handle different situations, whether it's a small business, whether it's a corporation, or just really investing in friends and family and getting to know them better, that I find that more fulfilling. And I'm glad I've done that, but I haven't figured it out totally. It adjusts, and over time you kind of refine and you become curious and you learn different things and you read different things, and you either learn from it or it reinforces um, what it is that you've accomplished thus far.
yeah, that learner's mindset. I have seen the most effective leaders have that. They're curious, they're learning, they're constantly growing, they know themselves or they're learning about themselves. So, in taking that as a foundation, where will you be 1 year from today?
I honestly don't know that, but I always do that assessment every time I look at something. Is where I was and how I've grown. And if there's one thing that I would put down on paper, or one of my goals for this upcoming year, is I've spent a considerable amount of time in effort in publishing a book, and that's a personal goal of mine, where I want to share my experiences with the world, uh, focusing on digital transformation, data, artificial intelligence, all those different fun things, but from my lens, from Achilles' lens. And like I said, I do that, or I want to do that. Or sorry, I will do that. I've learned this from you. I will do that because I want my family or my children specifically to look back and say, hey, my dad was a part of this, or my dad kind of did this. And they may chuckle at it, and they may not. Hopefully they take something from it and build upon it. But 1 year from now, that would be my goal.
What will that book mean to you? I heard about what it'll mean to your kids or what you hope it'll mean to your kids. What will it mean to you?
Um, I think that the book for me is a place marker to kind of delineate, write down, and share the ripples that I've had within my life or career, and um, hopefully something will resonate with other people that may or may not be going through similar situations, and may help them or reinforce to them what it is that they're doing, in the realm of big data and in the realm of a corporate life, or if you're an entrepreneur, just in a startup or a family business. I think the lessons, typically what I've kind of seen, are similar, or the problem sets are similar across all industries and different facets or career stages. The 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 key ingredient to how to become successful, or to see if you've actually done something that is worthwhile, is your approach and ability on how you handle it. And that personalized personal sauce, so to speak, will resonate. um, I think will resonate in my book, because you'll definitely get a view on how I see things, but it will also resonate with anyone else who reads it and kind of pursues it and understands how the frameworks will impact what they're doing.
I'm so glad to hear that you're thinking about this and that you will do this because I have been following you for years and I know that lots of people are waiting for you to do this. And like we want the playbook. We want the Achille playbook. And if it's coming out in book form, even better. And if you'd like me to hold you to it, you know I will.
I think I'll need that. I will need that.
You got it. It's a deal. All right, Achille, what crossroads are you at right now in your life?
Um, I don't know if this is a crossroad, but I'm really focusing on what I can do to give back. I've just been fortunate and blessed, and giving back, means, being involved as a dad. I really enjoyed this past weekend. I went to a soccer tournament for Ava in Buffalo, and she did fantastic. And that's not a crossroad. That's me telling people that being able to just pick up and spending that time just that day means the world to me, and obviously I think it means the world to her. I want to be able to give back to people to show them how they can become commercially smart with the resources and experiences that they have, so that they can create a life that they want. And I think part of that, the crossroad for me, is actually sitting down and finishing and making that book real, a real goal, because the the truth is you get stuck into what happens day to day, and making sure that you have a plan that resonates with these milestones, so that you continue to evolve, and you continue to be able to, I'll say, provide or have influence, is not easy. And it puts me in an uncomfortable situation. So that's kind of the crossroad. And
Mhm.
I'm generally okay with that. But I'll be honest with you, I'm like anyone else. If there's other things that I can do to kind of, methodically think about it, or procrastinate, which is something you've helped me with over a number of years, I fall into those traps like anyone else.
Mm,
But it's sticking to that path, to that goal way, or to that goal setting, and making it happen, and thinking big. I love that, because I've learned that from you.
mm,
Many years ago, when I would deal with different situation in my academics that you identified pretty clearly, and it took me a while to get to, versus other, I'll say, mid-career, or different life points for me. It's the coaching has obviously been great, and I appreciate it, but you being there as a friend has been even more important. So I obviously thank you for that, and I just don't think you realize the impact you've had on me. It goes far beyond that Myers-Briggs assessment that we did. I'm going to say a few years ago, because I don't want to date myself.
I didn't know you were going to do all this, but that's very, very touching. Thank you. And like I said, our relationship has been very meaningful to me too. Um, I have a question I just have to ask, since, I obviously hear this theme about your family being important, and you've learned over the course of your life how to prioritize, how to be there for your family, what meaning you derive from them as a leader in the world, and how so much of what you do is really about them. As a man in Canada, I'm just curious, how okay is it to prioritize your family at work and to talk about it in the way that you do, in such a sort of heartfelt way?
I haven't had any issues. I mean, to be direct, but
Yeah.
I'm typically not afraid to express my issues, or how
Right.
I
That's
feel.
part of who you are too.
Yeah. So I would share with you something today. I have someone on my staff that's dealing with, a family situation, and I'm pretty easy on it. It's a very serious situation that they're dealing with their family life, and they have a sick family member, and I'm very empathetic to their situation, and I give them the space that they need. But the reason I do that is because of all the different leaders that I've worked with in the past, and at Loblaw specifically. I worked for one individual for 10 years, that when I had to tell them that my father was diagnosed with brain cancer, that I couldn't function, they didn't just walk away from me. They really gave me the space to do what it is that I needed to do, and I'm so grateful for that. And I hold my word, where I will share that, and I will do the same when I'm in the similar situation. And this is not the first time I've been in that situation about that giving back. It's the right thing to do. And, for me, that's easy, Priya, because this is who I am, and I will not pretend to be someone different. but I'll definitely listen to different views or different ways on how to handle anything or different ideologies. I may not agree, and that's okay too, but happy to learn. Um, but I'll always be authentic, and that's how I build trust through people, throughout my entire network. It's not something that I've faked. This is the real. This is Achille.
Yeah. And it's no wonder people want to be led by you because they want a human, authentic leader who's going to be compassionate and understanding. All right. What challenges are now in the rear view mirror for you?
Um, it's interesting you say that. I get that. I was recently with um I do some work, or I do a lot of work with the Smith School of Business, and we had a group from Spain in, and they've asked me the same thing from a career perspective. And here's how I answered it. And I hope it provided some value. Um, when you're dealing with any type of situation and you really are putting in the time to solve anything, uh, if you can make it meaningful and you can look back and identify that you've done great things, that's fantastic. But it's equally as important to identify or learn from the things that didn't go so well. And you need to talk about them. And that's what makes you uncomfortable. And so things that are, I want to say they're behind me, but they're not, right? Because it's just in a different lens. I led a very large team at one of the largest grocery companies in Canada, and I led them because, or I led them for a number of years because we all worked together to get things done. And I could tell you all the great things that we did, but it was understanding the things that we didn't do well and actually look at them so that we could do better were the things that are behind me from a corporate perspective. But today in my own family business, I'm dealing with the same things at a smaller scale. I just have a different lens on them than everyone else does. Equally as important, by the way, the magnitude of the problem is not as big. What happened to me what happened behind the wheel where I built analytics teams and I ran, supply chain and we did network analysis is no different than me renting construction equipment today in our family business. Smaller scale, problems are the same. It's just the lens. Uh,
Mm, yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question. I know I
Yes, it
kind
was
of a
like a mic
double-edged
drop
sword, but
moment. Yes, 100%. I'm learning a lot from you as usual. And I have one more question. But before we get to that question, is there any, you know, are there any advice or tips or anything else you want to share with the people who read and peruse the Voices of Inclusion newsletter?
I would say being yourself and staying true to your values is something that I think we all know. But it's when we're put to the test or the stress is put on that, understanding the decisions that you make, whether you stay that path, court that path, or do a different path, is something that only you, and I'll say for myself, only I can answer. I'm fortunate that when I've been put in those positions, maybe it's that intimidation factor or whatever it is that people see at first lens. Um, but I've been pretty fortunate that when I have been tested in those avenues that I've kept to my values. And it may have not seemed like the right thing to do at the time, but I guess when I do look back, I'm very thankful that those are the choices that I made because quite honestly, I think they were the right ones. When I look back at I'll say my path. And so for anyone else, I would share the same thing. Stay true to your values and stay true to what it is that you believe in. And don't be afraid to learn and be open to other ideologies or anything. Um, and that's what I would share.
Beautiful. All right. So, speaking of choices and decisions and being aligned with values, on that, we end every interview with this question. It's sort of a fun one, but sometimes it's not so fun for people. It ends up being a bigger one. What's a decision you have to make this month?
That's interesting. Um, thinking about that because I don't necessarily. Huh. Well, here's what I'll tell you, Priya. This is on a personal level, and I don't think the decision's this month. This is a decision I need to make. So I won't put a month tag
Okay.
to it. But I would tell you that I the this one a decision I need to make is from a health perspective, how do I continue to take care of Achille so that he stays healthy and fit? And I don't think that's a decision for this month, but as I get older, because it's my birthday next month, I always kind of think about these things and what I can do to kind of create more healthy, a healthy lifestyle. So it's putting the time in the gym, making sure I eat right, making sure that in spirit wise, I'm challenging my mind and spirit. Um, and I've always tried to include these things with my family. Uh,
They're the best accountability partners I find, especially when it comes to health. I am so grateful for your insight, your wisdom, your time, your ideas, and our connection. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on Voices of Inclusion.
Thank you so much.